Today's deep dive, this is going to be good. We're talking about Sonny Luthra's approach to, get this, not just training your dog, but building a bond that's like next level.
And the really cool thing about his method is it's not about us learning their language. It's more like finding a way to tap into something, I don't know, deeper, more instinctive.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. Less frantic Googling, why does my dog?
Yeah.
At 2 a.m., more of this, please. So tell me, what's the big secret?
Well, we tend to think about, when we say dog training, we think, oh, command, sit, stay, fetch.
Right.
But Sonny Luthra, and he's a dog behavior consultant, by the way, years of experience, he's worked with all kinds of dogs.
Yeah, he knows his stuff.
He says, we need to shift gears a little. It's less about the commands, more about creating a world that just makes sense to them.
Okay.
Through consistent rituals.
Rituals, like a set routine, but for my dog.
You got it.
I've got to admit, I'm really curious now. Most of the dog training advice out there, it's like you need a PhD.
I know, right? But what Luthra's saying, it's actually incredibly simple. And it really lines up with how dogs naturally are. You know, they crave structure. They want predictability. It's in their DNA.
Right, because their ancestors, they were pack animals, right? So their days had a certain flow, a hierarchy. Everyone knew their place.
Exactly. And that, that provided security.
So are you saying that a lot of the behavioral issues that, we see in dogs, it's us?
Sometimes, yeah.
It's us accidentally throwing them off their game?
Think about it. We're inconsistent with our routines. We send them mixed signals.
Right.
It's like we're constantly changing the rules of the game and not telling them.
Oh, and that would make anyone stressed.
Right. And for dogs, stress, what does that come out as? Those behaviors we're pulling our hair out over.
The barking, the chewing, Okay, you've officially blown my mind, I have to say. But now I need to know, how do we bring this ritual magic into our lives with our dogs?
Well, Luthra, he breaks it down into six key rituals. The walk ritual, the discipline ritual, the socializing ritual, the feeding ritual, the play ritual, and believe it or not, even an affection ritual.
Wait, so there's a right way to cuddle your dog?
You'd be surprised.
Okay, all right, hold on. This is a lot. Let's start with walks, or we all do that already, right? So what makes that a ritual in Luthra's view?
It's all about perspective. We tend to think of walks as, exercise. Let the dog run around, get their energy out.
Right.
But for them, it's way more than that. Think about it. It's about leadership. It's exploring the world through their noses, because that's how they experience things.
Yeah.
It's reinforcing that pack bond.
So it's not just about, here's your leash, go sniff every bush in the neighborhood.
Well, sniffing's important. It's just, we want some structure to the exploration. Luthra talks about how the walk, it starts calmly, the dog, ideally they're by your side, or maybe just slightly behind, taking cues from you.
So I'm the leader of the pack, even if it's just our little walk around the block.
Exactly.
Okay, I like it. What else about the walk? Are there other parts that, maybe we're not thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, consistency is huge, like having set times for walks. That way your dog, they anticipate it. It becomes part of their
routine.
Exactly. Keep that calm, assertive energy throughout. Even think about, like, designating specific sniffing breaks.
Wait, so even their breaks are structured?
It's about that framework,
It almost seems too easy, though. I mean, I'm all for simple, but why all this intentionality, even with the little things?
Because those little things, they add up. Think about it. You're creating a framework, right?
Yeah.
They know what to expect. And when they know what to expect, guess what? Less anxiety.
Yeah.
And that helps them relax into, being your companion.
So we're not just talking about physically tired dogs after a walk. We're talking about mentally tired dogs.
There you go.
A tired dog is a well-behaved dog. That's what they say. Okay, what's next? The discipline ritual. That one sounds, I don't know, a little strict. See, now I'm all about guidance, not like, punishment.
Right, and that's really what this is all about. It's like, imagine your dog, and they're always testing, right?
Yeah.
Trying to see, what are the boundaries here?
Makes sense.
So if you're all over the place, like sometimes you let something slide, sometimes no, bad dog. They're confused.
And confusion equals stress, like we were saying before.
Exactly. But when you've got those boundaries and you are consistent, it's reassuring for them.
Okay, I can see that. But how do we, I don't know, what's a clear boundary look like in dog language?
Well, Luthra, he gives some good examples. Like certain rooms are off limits, maybe the kitchen. No jumping on furniture unless you say so. No snatching food. Things we all want to teach our dogs.
Right.
But when you approach it with this, like, ritualistic consistency.
It changes the game.
It really does.
It's like, those house rule signs you see at like vacation
Yeah.
rentals?
Yeah.
Everybody knows what's up from the get-go.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. This is making sense. What's next? What's the next ritual on the list?
Well, let's talk about socializing,
Oh, boy.
which I know for some
Man,
owners.
total minefield. My dog, anytime we're at the park, another dog walks by, it's like, Velcro dog, glued to my side.
Well, good news. Sonny Luthra, his approach to the socializing ritual, it might be just the ticket. He's all about, he emphasizes creating those calm, neutral introductions.
Oh.
Letting dogs lead with their noses, which, if you think about it, that's their primary way of kind of gathering information about the world.
It's true. So no more of these, like, awkward, forced face-to-face greetings.
He actually says, and it's kind of funny, no touch, no talk, no eye contact.
Really?
It seems counterintuitive, but it lets them get to know each other on their terms, you know?
It's like they got to exchange business cards with their noses before they decide if they want to be best buds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it prevents those, sometimes we force those interactions and it creates like a negative association.
Right, right.
We've all seen those dogs at the park where they're clearly uncomfortable, but
Oh, yeah, totally overwhelmed.
and it's just not setting them up for success.
No, that makes so much sense. I'm starting to see how all of these rituals kind of build on each other, too. It's like the consistency, the clear communication, letting the dogs be dogs, really.
You're getting it. And speaking of consistency, how about this one? Meal times.
Meal times. But my dog, he acts like every meal is, he's won an award or something. Like, how do you even make that a ritual?
Again, it's a perspective shift. We're so used to thinking of food as just, fuel.
Right, right.
But for dogs, it's communication. It's reinforcing those bonds. It even helps them manage their own, like, internal sense of security, believe it or not.
Okay, now I'm really interested. Tell me more about this mealtime ritual.
Just like with the other rituals, consistency is key. Luthra, he's big on fixed meal times. No more guessing games for your pup. They know when to expect it. Which, again, what does that do? Reduces that anxiety, builds trust.
I feel bad now for all those times I was running late, and I'm like, here's your food in the bowl. See ya.
We've all been there. We've all been there. But now you know. He also talks about associating meals with walks, which sounds kind of strange at first.
Yeah, I was going to, where's the connection there?
Think about their instincts, way back when. In the wild, you'd have the hunt and then the meal.
Oh, right, right.
So by taking your dog for a walk before you feed them, you're fulfilling that innate need. First the activity, then the reward.
So it's like, you earn this, buddy, in dog language.
Exactly. And then, even when you bring that food home, it's not just plop it in the bowl. He talks about calm presence during feeding time.
Calm presence? I'm usually just trying to stop my kids from using their forks as drumsticks at dinner. What does that look like, ideally?
So imagine this. You're preparing their food, and you're doing it mindfully. No rushing around, no chaos.
Okay.
Your dog, maybe they're waiting patiently. Maybe they're sitting there watching you, anticipating.
Yeah.
You put the bowl down, and there's no fanfare. It's just this, like, quiet understanding.
I'll admit that sounds pretty zen, even for me. But I can see how it's less about wolfing down the food and more about that, like you said, the connection, the trust.
Exactly. It's saying so much more than, here's your dinner. You're reinforcing calmness. You're reinforcing patience. You're reinforcing that bond.
All right. Okay. I am on board with this whole ritual thing, I gotta say. What's next? Don't tell me, like, napping is a ritual too?
Well, we haven't got to sleep yet.
Okay.
But actually, Luthra talks about the play ritual next. And it's all about, maybe surprisingly, finding that balance.
You're kidding, right? Even playtime has to be ritualized. My dog would be horrified.
Now, hear me out, hear me out. He's not saying suck the fun out of play.
Okay.
It's about making it more enriching, more meaningful. It's easy to think, oh, more play is always better.
Right.
But just like with affection, timing and intention, it matters.
Okay. All right. Tell me more about how we turn playtime into a ritual without, becoming the fun police.
So it starts with scheduled playtime.
Okay.
Instead of those random bursts, which, by the way, for your dog, that can actually be kind of unpredictable.
Because dogs need routine. We've been saying this.
Exactly. Luthra suggests, just like with walks, meals, you set aside that specific time.
So we're talking like a playtime routine, not that you can never just like grab the frisbee and go out in the backyard.
You got it, you got it. And here's where the ritual part gets really interesting. He has this great concept, play with obedience.
Play with obedience. How do those two even go together?
So let's say you're playing fetch.
Okay.
Before you throw the ball, you ask for a sit or a stay.
Ah, so you're sneaking in a little training, but they don't even realize it.
Exactly. And by building in those pauses, those moments of impulse control,
Yeah.
you're actually helping them learn to regulate their own energy.
So it's like you're teaching them to be more mindful even when they're having fun.
There you go.
I love that. Okay, what about the last one? We can't leave out affection. Gotta give our furry friends some love.
Of course not. And, I'm sure your listeners are dying to know how this one works.
Right.
And this one's really interesting because it makes you think about your actions. Like Luthra, he asks a really good question. When it comes to affection, are we reinforcing the right things, or are we accidentally rewarding behaviors we don't want?
Yeah, all the time. Like my dog, if he jumps up and I'm like, oh, those puppy dog eyes, and I give him a pat, am I like encouraging that?
Could be. Or think about it this way. Your dog's anxious.
Right.
You want to make him feel better, so you're like, come here, you give him hugs and cuddles.
Yeah.
But what you're really saying is, it's okay to feel this way.
Oh, wow. I never even thought about it like that. It's like, we have the best intentions,
Right.
but we're messing it up. So, okay, what do we do? How do we make sure that the affection lands the right way?
Luthra's thing is, be mindful. Just kind of notice, when are you giving affection? What's the dog doing right then? Are you rewarding calmness? Are you rewarding them paying attention to you? Or are you saying, hey, it's okay to be all up in my grill demanding stuff?
It's like we got to be strategic with our cuddles now.
A little bit, a little bit.
Okay, give me an example. What does this mindful affection actually look like?
Okay, so picture this. Dog's just chilling out.
Okay.
Maybe they're lying at your feet, you're reading a book.
Yeah.
That's your moment. Reinforce that mellow vibe.
Yeah.
Give them some gentle petting. You're basically saying, I love it when you're like this.
And if they're bouncing off the walls, wanting attention, I should.
Ignore, ignore, ignore.
Yeah.
Until they settle down. Then you give them the love.
So they learn that chill vibes equal ear scratches. Man, it's amazing to me, though, how these little shifts in how we see things, it can make such a difference,
That's the beauty of this whole approach, really. It's not like these complicated techniques.
Right.
It's about understanding your dog,
Right.
how they think.
So we've covered a lot. Structured walks, how to play strategically, mindful affection.
Yeah.
For anyone listening who's like, okay, I want to try this. I want to deepen that bond with my dog. What's the most important thing for them to remember?
I think if you boil it all down, dogs, they want things to be predictable. They
Yeah.
want that consistency, that clear communication.
Yeah.
And when you incorporate these rituals, you're not just training them.
Right.
You're creating a world that they actually understand,
Where they feel safe.
where they feel secure. And that's how you unlock their potential. And not just, oh, my dog obeys me, but genuine happiness.
It's like Sonny Luthra saying, hey, sometimes the simplest changes make the biggest difference. Which, by the way, is a good life lesson in general.
He also talks about how it's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
You're not going to have this perfect ritualistic harmony overnight.
Oh, there will be bumps in the road, for sure.
Absolutely. Dogs are going to be dogs. They're going to test those boundaries.
Oh, yeah, they'll test them.
But you just got to approach it with patience, consistency, and a whole lot of love.
Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? That bond we have with our dogs. So for everyone out there, think about maybe just one or two of these rituals.
Yeah, start small.
Maybe it's, like you said, a set meal time. Maybe it's being more aware of when you're giving them those cuddles. Even small things, they can make a difference.
And remember, you don't have to do this alone. There's a whole community out there, resources. Luthra's got that.
The Oh My Dog Pack platform.
Yes.
We'll put a link to that in the show notes for sure.
It's a great resource.
And here's a final thought for you. Luthra's rituals, they're for you and your dog, right? But how could understanding these ideas change how you interact with other dogs? Just something to think about. Until next time, happy training. Or should we say happy ritual making?